We always make silly projects in Voidstar Labs, so now that April Fool's Day is rolled around again, I flipped the script and invented the first genuinely useful project in the entire channel. Behold the Gridfinity, your ultimate modular storage system for your workshop, tool chest, and spare parts, designed not to help you store more stuff, but to finish more projects. It's free, it's open source, it's almost 100% 3D printed, and because I am sick of this April Fool's crap, this video has absolutely no fake outs. Brooke, they're definitely going to think this video has fake outs now. Ladies, gentlemen, NBs, furry scalies, AIs, gelatinous hexahedra, reincarnated houseplants, and cyborgs. This was not supposed to be a project episode. I stream project builds on Twitch, and I answer viewers' questions while I work, and one of the cues most frequently aid is how I set up my workshop and how I keep it productive, tidy, and safe. So I figure, instead of launching into yet another project marathon, I will just film myself doing my spring cleaning, write 20 minutes of aphorisms, and make you guys a tidying up video so vague and insubstantial it would make Jordan Peterson say, "Perhaps our society would be improved if the wealthy and powerful made minor sacrifices to benefit the lower classes." In my opinion, which is objectively correct, every item in the perfect workshop A has a dedicated home within reach of where you'll use it. B is exposed and in position for instant grabification. C shields you from accidents like spills and injuries. And D is effortless to set up and super easy to put back and rearrange. Follow these rules and you'll be able to find anything instantly, reset back to clean in seconds, and adapt your workspace as your projects change. In other words, your workshop will help you finish projects. As I fluffed up 12 seconds of tips into a full-length episode, I was forced to confront the reality that at some point Voidstar Lab had crossed some sort of feng shui event horizon and is just no longer compatible with my own cleanup rules. Parts are mingling, tools are scattered, sharp points and nasty chemicals ambush wandering fingers. The whole place is just a mess. I was staring into the abyss, and the abyss was whispering back, "My dude, you should really work on the keyboard or the wearable project instead of getting sidetracked cleaning up your workshop again." The abyss has a point, but impossibly ambitious cleanup campaigns are like catnip to ADHD havers, and I don't just have ADHD, I have AD Ultra HD 4K 120 FPS. I didn't just straighten up my workshop, I fired up Fusion 360 and I straightened up the concept of straightening up. I designed nearly 100 interchangeable storage blocks and a ton of base plates to extend this system to the tool chest, work surface, 3D printers, whatever the stuff that makes the stuff is stuffed. Other storage systems are designed to hoard the most crap per cubic whatever, but the Gridfinity is built different. The goal is to display your stuff so you can quickly find what you need and get back to the project as ASAP as possible. If you just came to grab the models, dive into the description and open those links in a new window, because the algorithm is only going to promote my video if it thinks people are actually watching it. Look, I'm giving you an entire organizational system for free. The least you could do is inflate my metrics. As for the printer, may I recommend today's sponsor, Anycubic, particularly their brand new Mongo-sized Cobra Max. This kaiju scale bed slinger boasts a Titanic build envelope of 400 by 400 by 450 millimeters. That fits almost 4 of Prague's finest build plates and fills nearly 8 times the volume. Many large format printers are just regular machines with longer rails, but the Cobra Max improves the design with stability and speed to support its size. This has a volcano-style hot end with an extended melt zone, which lets you crank out prints up to 180 millimeters a second, or like I'm doing for this project, lay down 0.6 millimeter lines with an 0.4 millimeter nozzle. There's no point having a giant printer if it takes you like a week to make a giant print. I put the Cobra to work solving my small part storage problem by pumping out divider bins that could nestle as neatly into my drawers as they nestle into my organizational philosophy. We are going to address the parts rainbow in a minute, but the real problems are the assortment boxes and the tool holders. These movable divider snap-top boxes are super cheap, and they store a ton of stuff, but they have some major problems. In order to nab a part, you have to find the right box, clear enough space, pop the latches, fish out the parts, and then when it comes time to clean up, you gotta repeat that for every single part you used. Also, these bullshit dividers can suck my cybernetic farts. You gotta delicately slip your fingers in that dinky little compartment. If you so much as brush against that divider, it'll lift up and all your shit fucking spreads together, and then you have to spend all night sorting out these nuts. Or the whole box allegedly slips from your fingers and dissolves into a puff of entropy on the carpet below. Happened to a friend. I was there, alone. The divider bin is the most important storage block in the Gridfinity system. That's what these things are called, storage blocks. I painstakingly generated 50 different configurations of width, height, and compartment count, but don't worry about analysis paralysis. In order to make my setup, all I had to do was take inventory of my existing storage and queue up a set of bins that stored the same amount of stuff. If none of my storage has a lid and it's all spread out, then finding, grabbing, and returning stuff becomes a one-step, almost instantaneous process. Yeah, and don't overthink it. If you print the wrong thing, you can just rip it out, drop in a new one, and reuse the old one in a different part of your workshop. The system can change with you, which is really great because I keep making new kinds of projects and I just straight up couldn't cram another divider box in there, and McMaster-Carr just will not stop sending me the parts I keep ordering. The curved inner surface lets you scoop parts out with just a single finger. This lip allows you to stack these FUD puckers to the moon, and the undercut label tab helps even the most hand-eye uncoordinated among us carry the whole bin to the workbench without allegedly watching their friend spill it on the floor. Assortment boxes do have one advantage over modular bins. You can grab an entire set of parts and schlep them all together. At least they would have an edge if I didn't create this frame that binds bins into a custom assortment tray. Haha! Let's shoot the elephant in the room. Alexandre Chappel already made a modular storage system, and he already made a number of videos about it, and those videos are better than this one. Alex's design did in fact inspire the Gridfinity. No shit, Sherlock, and I know how salty you people get about the so-called practice of stealing ideas. Alex increased the capacity of his system by storing parts in a filing cabinet full of assortment boxes. I am trying to minimize the amount of work by showcasing stuff where you're likely to need it. Alex is a woodworker, so he added lids to his thing to keep out all the sawdust. I don't use real man tools, and I don't have that problem, so why not go topless? Alex made his complete system for users to buy. I made more of a framework for the community to extend. The concept of stealing ideas is bullshit. That's a topic for a different video. Either way, I will admit my standing as a ripoff artiste, and I hereby pledge that if Alex comments on this video, I will pin his comment no matter how blackened he roasts me. I've been a bad boy, Alex. Punish me. The second part of the system is the base plate, and the frame is the bare minimum to organize the organizers. This Z-shaped socket lets you plop storage blocks down with zero resistance, but this little vertical lip keeps them from getting knocked back out. If you're a klutz, you can glue 4 magnets to each socket and give yourself a little more resistance to your own stupidity. Don't worry about magnetizing the parts. The magnets are too small and too far to do any damage. You don't need a huge printer to make a Gridfinity. You can use basically anything. But the Cobra let me run off these gigantic 7x7 frames that perfectly nestled into my brand new booger-esque horrible freight tool chest. Oh, that's so satisfying, man. I'm gonna play it again just so you can watch that satisfaction. Oh, it's good shit. One more time. Oh yeah, that's the stuff. One important detail is that all storage blocks are entirely contained in a whole number of 42mm squares. Nothing ever pokes past the edges, so as long as you're I have hair in my mouth. You can equip any configuration and they're guaranteed to be compatible. All blocks are multiples of 7mm high, so if you find mismatched heights to be irksome, you can even out any 2 storage blocks by stacking the shorter one on at the absolute most 2 divider bins. The rigid dimensions also make designing your own components super easy. Just clone the template in Fusion 360, adjust the parameters, generate some blanks, and hack the planet. But before you bust out the calipers, you should know that I got a little bit carried away and I already designed a few too many tool holders, like this one, for my calipers. Allow me to show you them. These racks hold the very common and very cheap Harbor Freight socket sets, and I think they perfectly exemplify this project's philosophy. See, the socket set already comes in its own holder, and you can get the classic Billy Club socket thingy anywhere. But both of these need you to grab the holder with one hand and yank the socket off with the other, and I want everything in my workshop to be as effortless as physically possible. In the last episode, I broke a ton of CNC bits, and I don't see any reason why that's going to change moving forward. So I took the angled tray I designed for that video and I turned it into this stackable holder for bits and protective tubes. If your 3mm tools came in these jewel cases, you can rip out the whole tool holding part and just slot it into this version. I also made some high density trays for 1/8 and 1/4 inch shank bits, which hold a lot of tools but are too tall to stack other blocks on top of. Still, they're perfect for backups in case you break many bits. Many bits. Many. If you're busting bits, you're probably going to need some collets, so I designed this tray to stash them in their little boxes. Then I came to my senses and I designed this tray to stash collets without their boxes. Both of these let you stack more stuff on top, and I'm going to stop saying whether you can stack stuff on top because from here on out, it should be pretty obvious. For instance, you cannot stack anything on these pencil holders on account of the pencils. It's 2022, yet the dominant species on this planet still stores information by smearing ink on tree film. These blocks can hold your entire rainbow of Sharpie markers, or, if you're a dog, your black, white, and gray markers. The ominous cube you see before you cradles the Sharpie Magnum. If I so much as imply what color the Sharpie Magnum is, I will get cancelled so hard it'll leave a crater. While we're on the subject of rainbows, the Parts Rainbow's lifespan is coming to an end. This is the window bin, a divider bin with one wall replaced by a microscope slide, and it's eventually going to become the next Parts Rainbow. Glass slides are really cheap, they resist scratches that would destroy acrylic, and they come pre-cut to size, no laser cutter needed. In a future episode, I will design a special frame that'll turn these window bins into this erg-bled illuminated storage extravaganza that'll surpass the Parts Rainbow. Subscribe now, or I guarantee you'll forget to see it. Even on their own, these glass front bins are really good for stacking because they let you see what's inside, even without labeling them. Concerned trolls, I'm going to shake this baby as hard as I can, and as you can see, it still hasn't cracked. No one is going to slice their fingers on the sharp glass either, because these slides have ground edges. You may not have realized it yet, concerned trolls, but I deliberately add stuff like this to my projects just to trigger you. Then I mitigate the risks and snatch your only joy in life right out of your hands. The game has been rigged from the start. I did a whole episode on how more print prints for printers than printers print prints for printed projects, but you know what? Mounting supplies to your machine actually makes a lot of sense. Because now that I have like 12 printers all over the lab, it's tempting to strew tools everywhere. Yeah, that's right, strew is the present tense of strewn. It's one of those uncomfortable SAT words like funner and gruntled. I designed printer-mounted base plates for every machine I got. The Cobra and Viper get 2 of them, a side mount sidecar bracket and a top mount for the Z-axis and base. This version locks into the enclosure rails of my tool changer or snapmaker. This one slips over the Prusa's frame. This little guy fits Lulzbot's weirdly thin extrusion. But what shall we put on them? He asked hypothetically. This little caddy holds your wrenches, needles, brush, tweezers, cutters, and I didn't know what size scraper you got, so I added slots for all of them. I didn't add a place for a glue stick because the next storage block is Adhesive Storage. It stores adhesives, it isn't itself adhesive, although I do suspect that after prolonged use it may grow mildly adhesive. The basic model stores 3 sizes of Dead Horse push pops, grower not shower, dad sized, and the one that came with the gummy bears. But if you're a serious printer guy, you may need a place to put your Magigoo or your nanopolymer. That one also just happens to be the perfect size for a small spray bottle of Windex or alcohol. You got nozzles, I got storage, let's talk. The goal is not to store as many as possible. If I packed them closer together or I spread them to the rim, sure, I'd be able to stash more of them, but they'd be awkward to pick up. 3 Volcano/Cobra Max nozzles are reclining on this block, and this guy interleaves 4 Revo nozzle brakes with their color-coded socks held aloft. That brings us to the Workbench, where smart storage has the most powerful payoff. If you lay things out smartly, you'll really accelerate your projects, and if you lay them out dumbly, which is also a word, you'll end up using the wrong tool out of sheer convenience. I used to put tweezers, needle files, picks, and soldering gear in these long, thin trays, but I found that rifling through sharp objects while holding a hot object, it kind of sucks. I found these holders, but honestly they're even worse. You have to expose the end of each tool to see what's what, and that means the business end is pointed directly at primo stabbing position. Plus, these are top heavy and cantilevered and just itching for one of my legendary gesticulations to send them tumbling. Here's my answer. The pick rack orients your pointy boys so it's easier to spot your target, but it angles them away from your hands. you know, like the not stupid way. I made this in 2 sizes since some of us just, happen to have narrower tools. It's nothing to be ashamed of. They work just as well. It's the patriarchy that's the problem. The tweezer rack hangs them twizzles upside down, shielding the delicate tips so you don't need to use those obnoxious protective covers anymore. All of these holders still have a high center of gravity, so I designed a heavy base plate with rubber feet and tire weights to keep your top-heavy tools from toppling. As of filming this, I haven't actually installed the system yet, and you can see that I shoved these strippers and the nippers straight through the top of the wire cart. I actually really like the system. It makes it easy to find a specific sharp object, with the minor downside of occasionally lacerating myself on it. I designed this angled rack to get that chef's kiss combination of saving space, time, and flesh. It's also angled aggressively enough to mount it vertically on a wall if you're so inclined. Get it? Inclined? Because an angle is inclined. I didn't design the vertical base plate that'll mount to that because I don't want you to slap your divider bins on the wall and then blame me when your parts spill all over the floor. This is open hardware, so I just have to wait for one of the community to throw themselves under the bus for me. The inspiration for this project was actually this case, the ES121 electric screwdriver that everyone keeps asking about, and an iFixit bit set that fits it. That was a real tongue twister. Side note, I strongly recommend archiving everything you print. There's no guarantee a file is going to stay online. I went into my archives, found my old STL, plopped it onto one of the storage block templates, cut away the excess, and called it a day. Anyways, I realized that most people do not use a 15-year-old screwdriver set. They probably use the newer 63-piece kit. So I designed another one. I went through so much bullshit for this project just to convince you to press that like button. It's right over there in case you forgot. I'm just throwing the spaghetti at the wall and seeing what sticks to the like button. I purpose-built this holder for an extremely handy low-profile ratchet driver with special stubby hex bits. It's really useful to have something like this to fit into tight spaces, and I'm going to be honest, the wellspring of small tool innuendo is completely dry. The only thing I have left is the word chode. One of the best parts of 3D printing is that you can jam out suspiciously specific items like this microcentrifuge capsule holder. I bought some tiny rivets and punch tools for my DIY CNC PCBs, and they arrived in these obnoxious bastards. The shape makes them impossible to stand, pile, or stack, but we are printers, and matter itself bends to suit our whims. Designing a new block is easy. Just generate a template, adds herbs and spices, and hit print. Just remember that when you share what you make, tag it Gridfinity so other people who are building the system can find it, like me. At this point, I decided enough was enough. I needed to get this episode done, but I'm going to float the rest of my ideas for your inspiration. This funky slot fits SD cards, micro SD cards, and USB sticks, and who wouldn't want a dedicated block for their most cherished non-volatile memories? These things hold AA's, AAA's, 18650s, and these would make really cool blocks. But coin cells tend to short against each other in bins, and would really benefit from a special holder. In Voidstar Lab, we all know that Quagsire reigns supreme, and the king deserves a tiny Quagsire throne. If you feel particularly ambitious, do you remember that massive Dremel aggro crag from my most popular episode? That could be turned into a Gridfinity setup, just Super Saiyan. This episode would probably have been possible without Anycubic and their new Cobra Max printer, but blasting out this entire system would have taken forever. If you're looking for a way to add a big, fast printer to your workshop, learn more in the description and then trick yours out with Gridfinity accessories. The thing literally just launched. It's going to go to stock in 45 seconds. My patrons' generosity is what lets me give away everything I design as free open source hardware, and that means these thanks go out on behalf of the whole disorganized maker community. The Venn diagram of disorganized and maker is just like a circle. My collaborators include Chuck Fadouk Small Dong, Jeremy Arnold Sweaty Vag, Brian D Swollen Nut, Reagan says ##, Castor the Catboy, and the Indefatigable Command. I've hidden their names not in the episode as per usual, but in the project itself. No one will find them. I'm too smart for mere humans. I got to express my gridfinite gratitude to our ridiculously ultra grid stick lab grid assistants. These polgridtudinous compatriots geometry grids subgridizing our grid and grid agenda include Gym, where John had a better impact on the teacher. The world's greatest drone pilot, Bachgrinder FPV, period Klutz, Nino Gansitano, DSA, Rusty Flute, Max Luck says if you can't fix it, you don't own it. Should have thanked them last video, missed the boat. Cats, Trans Rights, William Drescher, Good Lady Natch, Queen of Lemons, Victor of the Great Citrus Wars. Michael Roche, on all levels except physical, I am a lioness. Azundo, wielder of iron, Hadra of shrink. Eddie E. Punman, Lydia K, powerful CCH, Curb, Talon Democratic Socialist, a pretty righteous dude, Acorn Bleep Bloop, SXP, Terranak, Brad Cox, Trucku, Kevin DeGraff, Good Suck, Aerator, Protagonist, TKMK, Zanforian, Akalia just bought another 3D printer, Varka, Bob Dobbington, Isekai Elf, Mahiro Chan, Desina, Granville Schmidt, Burunduk 3, one handful of beans, Roger Pinkham of the Great Star Theater, Nathan Johnson, Philip, my dog is a bear, Burbisser did nothing wrong yet, Ethan Gomes, the Antifa, Sir Derpington of Derptopia, Boulder Creek Yard, James, Ashley Coleman, the Cuttlefish, the person who spells my name that way, and the handsome international man of mystery known only as Master William Schooler. Well, polish my pistons, it appears this video is a fake out after all. Yes! I suspect that you are, in the parlance of this dimension's youth, pogging. If you enjoyed this talkie, kindly pressurize the subscribe button to one bell, and until our timelines cross once more, I wish you the very best possible future. Brooke, pressurize the time dirigible. Yes, tally-ho!